Okay, so let's see. A question came up in community. Let's pull it up. A user was saying, "Hey folks, I'm trying to automate updates across multiple Domo instances, like setting host URLs, adding roles, and etc. in workflows. Each subscriber has its own access token account. How can I modify CodeEngine to call each of these different Domo instances and do the thing?" This is literally my 9 to 5 job. This is this is all I do all day, every day. I'm going to give you a simplified version of it that works with CodeEngine. I do most of my automation in Jupyter Notebooks, and I'm actually moving it out of Domo for reasons. Call me if you want to know more. But this will work for CodeEngine, I think. Well, I wrote this to work for CodeEngine, and you might need to do some massaging, but this should work. All right, so here's your like CodeEngine library, and it's got a couple functions in it that I'm going to step through. But basically, you would define like what are the actions that you want to perform in all of these different instances. Now, this one is called get collections. It's pretty does exactly what it says on the tin. You say what is the Domo instance that you want to hit, and then it's gonna get collections. If you wanted it to, I don't know, update users, you would say what's the Domo instance, what's your payload, or whatever you want to do to users. Right? You would obviously write something, but this is how we're going to get collections. So let's take a look. So the important thing to pass is the Domo instance, and the Domo instance will give you the information that we need in order to identify the Domo instance, Domo access token account object that we need to call. It will help me define the URL, and then I call a function called getData that uses the get method to hit this URL. Debug API is just a tool that I have for debugging. And what is the name of the auth account that has the access token that will authenticate me to the correct instance? In my world, I have everything set up where I do SDK. I create accounts called SDK just so that I know it's mine, and I would call it like Domo Community or SDK data crew dash space, which is my Domo instance. So I would have one account object for each Domo instance, and I have, obviously the access token stored in it, so that when I call get collections and I pass in data crew dash space, it will reconstruct the account name that has the access token stored in it. So hopefully that is all pretty straightforward still. So cool. What is getData? GetData is a function that I write in all of my libraries that allows me to do exactly what it says on the tin. Get, put, post, whatever, passing this URL, and getData is designed to handle authentication. So every time I write a function that does something in my different instances, I don't have to say, how do I handle authentication? No. GetData will take care of that for us. So let's take a look at getData. In CodeEngine, and this function is specifically written for CodeEngine, there's two ways that CodeEngine handles requests. You can either, if you're using Python, you can send requests.request, or you can use codeengine.request. Codeengine.request will execute locally, so it will only authenticate and it will automatically handle authentication in your own instance. So if you're like, hey, get me a list of users, you from my instance that I'm currently running the script from, then you're good to go. But if you want to get users from a remote instance, then you have to pass authentication information. Okay. So I have one function called getData. I've wrapped two kind of invisible functions or whatever, getData local and getData remote. If you do not pass auth account name, then we're going to assume that you wanted to do a local execution because you didn't pass any way to handle authentication. But if you do pass an account, then I assume you want to do remote execution and handle authentication. No matter the outcome, I like my getData function to test for success. So if the status is greater than or equal to 400, yeah, then throw an error, because that means my automation didn't work. I didn't update my user. I didn't get my accounts. I did not do whatever I needed to do, so I should throw an error. You can obviously massage it if you don't like things to throw errors, but I love things throwing errors. And otherwise, I'll just return the response from getData. All right, so I said earlier, getDataLocal does not require authentication. I just need a method, my URL, and my payload. And so I'll say, hey, use codeengine.sendRequest to send a put, a get, a patch, whatever, to this URL with this payload. And then they don't give you a 200, 300, or whatever response. It's either it works or it didn't. So I'm going to return my response. And I think if it fails, I think CodeEngine throws an error. But maybe I need to have some better error handling in here. Okay, fine. If I'm doing remote, which is, again, your use case, once you've passed the account name, I then know, okay, retrieve the access token from that account, and I know I need to add it to the header of my API request so that it authenticates to my remote instance. So I'll say, headers are whatever my header dictionary is, and if I didn't say that I needed headers, then instantiate an empty dictionary. Or an empty, dictionary. Then in order to generate my auth headers, I need to run a function that's going to generate my auth headers. I could have written it in here, but I like compartmentalizing my code. Okay, so we'll take a look at generate auth headers in a moment, but as you can see, the actual library that I'm using to send my API request is good old-fashioned Python requests.request. And I'm saying send me a get method to https:// myinstance.domo.com/API. I wish that wasn't in front of us. So this will say, my URL should be formatted https:// domoinstance.domo.com/API, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, you can use getData for anything as long as you pass a valid way. Like, I don't have to hit Domo. I could hit Snowflake if I wanted to, as long as I have a way of passing my authentication. Okay. Sweet. And then obviously request.request, so you pass your payload as a JSON or as data if it's not JSON. And then we go on with our life. Okay. So that's the getData function. How did we handle authentication? So when I call the function generate auth header, if I pass in an account name, remember the account name is going to be something like then I just need to say, hey, find that account and pull out the access token. So I have a separate function for retrieving account creds because this is a little complex. And then I'll say, oh yeah, just get the Domo access token off of whatever was returned from here, and then destructure it onto my headers using xdomo developer token, because that's how we use access tokens to authenticate API requests. Super easy. Once upon a time, I separated this because once upon a time, account auth might have username and password combination. So if you wanted to do that, you would obviously have a different attribute. You would use the, I don't even remember what it is, but session token or whatever for authenticating with username and password instead of Domo access token. But we're using Domo access token, so just run with this code. How do I retrieve my account creds? That's the last piece of the puzzle, and then we're done. So to retrieve account creds, we're going to use SDK or CodeEngine to retrieve the account object. I just wrote a try except because if SDK.getAccount doesn't work, then it's going to call codeengine.getAccount. And you can pass the account name as either, I guess I should write that into my you can pass the account ID or the account name, and then you'll get the right result. Now, just be careful. I should add a note. So one of the lovely quirks about Domo is that if you go to the account user interface, what you see as the account name is actually stored as the account display name. And that's different from the account name. The account name is whatever was in the interface when you pressed enter the first time to create the account object. So most likely the account name is Domo access token parentheses 5, Domo access token parentheses 4, and then somewhat place down the road you were like, oh, just kidding, I should rename it to something else. That's the display name, not the account name. Long story short, just be careful, and if it's not working as expected, that's why. And it might be better to pass the account ID, which will always work and retrieve the right account, but it's just not by name. So for that one, it might make sense to use like a web form to say, oh, this account name, display name maps to this account ID, or this Domo instance, Domo data crew space maps to account ID 57. And then I can just pass in the number. Well, if I rewrote this, I guess. Okay, fine. We'll do it like this. Okay, yeah, that's it. When I say this is literally my 9 to 5, I'm not even joking a little bit. This is my 9 to 5. I built a whole library called Domo Library, which you can pip install Domo Library to handle all of the automation that I do in Domo. And like I said, I'm actually moving out of Domo, Jupyter, and CodeEngine for managing my code because for reasons. So hit me up. Good luck. Have fun. Bye.